Okay, let's dive right into this. We are constantly bombarded with breaking news, political updates, and endless daily controversies. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, who writes about the issues that actually change society? Who are the people deliberately crafting messages not just to inform us, but to permanently improve the socio-economic and cultural fabric of our lives? This question instantly reframes how we look at the media. Instead of just a mirror reflecting our daily chaos, what if the media was actually a deliberate catalyst for long-term empowerment?
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are taking a really deep dive into the fascinating world of development, communication, and journalism. Our goal here is to completely transform how you understand the immense power of purposeful communication. We're going to explore how words, images, and broadcasts are meticulously engineered to tackle some of the absolute biggest challenges facing humanity, from poverty and health crises right through to environmental conservation and basic human rights.
Here is a roadmap for today. First, redefining media for development. Second, core concepts of change. Third, real-world success stories. Fourth, modern channels of communication. And finally, skills and career opportunities.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, redefining media for development, moving past the headlines.
To truly understand development journalism, we kind of have to contrast it with what came before. Prior to the independence of many nations, colonial-era reporting was heavily focused on a top-down narrative. It highlighted struggles, assassinations, disasters, and wars. It was essentially whatever the rulers chose to communicate. But as newly liberated countries began expanding their development activities, a totally new paradigm emerged. Development journalism flipped the script. Instead of just disaster reporting, it shifted focus entirely to community empowerment. It spotlights success stories of people adopting new technologies, communities trying out new agricultural methods, and grassroots initiatives actively helping society. It's journalism that describes people at work in new projects, seeking to uplift rather than just sensationalize.
Moving on to Section 2, Core Concepts of Change. Let's define the vocabulary of empowerment.
So what do we actually mean by development? It's a word thrown around a lot, right? Well, in this context, development means positive, permanent changes in the socioeconomic and cultural lives of the majority of people, and crucially, without exploitation or violence. True development isn't just a temporary band-aid. It's a massive structural effort to permanently tackle root problems like mass illiteracy, malnutrition, pollution, and hunger. It is all about ensuring the benefits of progress actually reach the vast, often marginalized populations.
Which brings us to the broader umbrella term, development communication. This was coined by Nora Quabro way back in 1972. She defined it as the art and science of human communication used for facilitating the development of a disadvantaged society in a planned manner. Notice that it's both an art and a science. It is not just broadcasting instructions at people. It's a vital two-way process. It assumes that communities facing a problem have the innate ability to find solutions themselves, but they might just need some assistance in seeking resources. The whole goal is to build a dialogue, create consensus, and stimulate concerted, unified action.
All right, Section 3, Real-World Success Stories. Let's look at campaigns that literally moved millions.
Now, what's really interesting about this street play is that at a glance, it just looks like local entertainment, but it's actually part of something much, much bigger. This is the Red Ribbon Express. It was a massive nationwide communication campaign in India designed to break the silence and generate real awareness about HIV/AIDS. Instead of just handing out flyers, they used an actual, specially designed train with 7 coaches, fully equipped with educational materials, 3D models, and counseling cabins. When the train halted at a station, performing artists would go out into the surrounding villages and conduct street plays, folk songs, and group counseling sessions right there in the community.
43,200. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the staggering number of villages reached by the Red Ribbon Express. It's an absolutely mind-boggling scale. The train traversed 9,000 kilometers a year across 180 different districts. By combining a massive mobile infrastructure with localized, culturally relevant interpersonal communication, they successfully educated millions, reduced stigma, and provided primary prevention services right at the grassroots level.
Another monumental example of development communication in action is the Swachh Bharat mission, launched in 2014. This was implemented as a Jan Andolan, which literally translates to a people's movement or mass movement. Now, it wasn't just about building infrastructure. The core communication strategy was strictly focused on mass-scale behavior change regarding sanitation. The campaign utilized an intensive combination of media to create a conducive environment for adopting healthy practices, systematically tracking both toilet construction and usage across the country to eliminate open defecation.
Going a bit further back, here's a fascinating microstory. Think back to 1969. The Hindustan Times started Project Village Chitera. They took a major urban newspaper and dedicated a regular fortnightly column entirely to a small village in northwest Delhi. Enterprising reporters wrote these incredibly detailed, sensitive stories about the daily lives, aspirations, and struggles of the villagers. They highlighted everyday issues like broken infrastructure, deficit rainfall, and electricity problems. By bringing these rural realities directly into the urban press, the newspaper acted as a massive catalyst, bringing various services and actual infrastructural benefits to the community. It proved the immense power of print journalism to bridge the gap between rural needs and administrative action, way before the internet even existed.
That brings us to Section 4, Modern Channels of Communication, Reaching the Masses. Development communication uses a really diverse, highly targeted toolkit. Radio, for example, is incredibly mobile and low cost. And through community radio, it becomes a localized medium run by the people, for the people, in their own specific dialects. Television, on the other hand, brings massive mass reach by embedding educational values right into entertaining formats like reality shows and soap operas. Print media provides that continuous deep dive education. And the new frontier? Information and Communication Technologies, or ICTs. This is all about mobile empowerment and telecenters, literally transforming local economies by enabling banking, market access, and e-government services right from a basic mobile phone.
A prime example of harnessing high-end technology for development is EduSat. Launched in September 2004, this wasn't just some small instrument. It was India's first entire satellite built exclusively to serve the educational sector. It was a massive leap forward, designed specifically to meet the enormous demand for an interactive, satellite-based distance education system. It completely bridged the geographic divide, bringing high-quality education to the most remote classrooms imaginable. And this high-tech infrastructure directly fuels grassroots empowerment. Take the Self-Employed Women's Association, or SEWA. They represent thousands of poor women in the informal sector, and they realized that poor access to information was directly contributing to poverty. So they fully embraced ICTs. They set up community learning centers in rural areas to train women in computers, radio, video, and satellite communication. By doing this, these women use technology for absolute self-reliance, achieving quick communication and problem-solving across districts, vastly improving their economic and social security.
Finally, Section 5, Skills and Career Opportunities, Becoming a Changemaker. This field requires a unique, multifaceted toolkit. If you have strong cognitive and creative skills, meaning you can decode complex social issues and project them creatively, you might really thrive as a research scholar or campaign designer. If you're technically gifted, maybe as a development filmmaker or a digital freelancer, you'll need to master camera techniques and IT systems. But perhaps most importantly, if you have profound empathy, a real willingness to listen, and strong interpersonal leadership qualities, you could be exactly what's needed on the ground as an NGO consultant or a grassroots trainer. So I want to ask you directly. Do you possess the empathy, the technical chops, and the cognitive abilities to take on these roles? The guiding principle of this entire profession is simply helping people help themselves. It demands a very special blend of talents. You have to be deeply people-centric to truly understand their viewpoints, but also technically proficient enough to broadcast those realities to the world in a way that actually forces positive change. We've seen how development communication completely shifts the focus from sensationalism to real solutions. We've seen how campaigns like the Red Ribbon Express or community radio can literally save lives and empower entire villages. The tools of mass communication are more accessible today than at any point in human history. So I'll leave you with this final thought. How will you use your voice and your media choices to drive development in your own local community? The power to be a catalyst for change is right in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning and keep asking the big questions.